Soundstripe.
Trying to get a lot of dough. Anything is possible. Turn me up in the headphone.
Soundstripe.
Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Yeah. Oh man, I got a lot of goals. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Oh man, I got a lot of goals. Stack that bread and by
Welcome back to the XandOSports Show. I'm your host, Ricky G. Stanley. Hope everybody's doing well. I know it's been a while since that Super Bowl episode. Of course, my Eagles lost, but I can take it. We play like men. We play like, champs. But fortunately, we didn't get the win. But neither here or there. Got a special episode for you guys tonight. Been working on it for a while. I wanted to take the right approach to take it because the fact that sometimes when I do episodes, I want to make sure it's a storyline behind it, especially if it's an episode outside of, normal football. So this episode is a special one. One of my good buddies that have been on the show a couple times. His name is Donovan Davis, and he's a big Seattle Seahawks fan. But I remember years ago when I started watching Seattle, I watched how they were built, and there's a thing called coaches, and we got players. So some of the time I've been away, I actually been getting certified to be a coach. So I might certify to be a coach now. So I may be coaching this year. I help with my son's baseball, but trying to get into football maybe next year. But I won't reveal that until the contract is signed. Business is business. But neither here or there. Wanted to touch on philosophy over players. Now this is something that you don't see that often. But I'm going to use the Seattle Seahawks in this episode. But another one is the Patriots, and I may do them another episode. Depends on how this one goes. So Pete when he came in out of USC, he had a philosophy, and he had a scheme. But a lot of his players, what I call unproven players here. So he turns around, and he takes his approach to the Seattle Seahawks. He's going to run the ball hard, go play action, and he's going to play hard-nosed defense. Everybody know in USC, he had a good running game, good passing game. He had a hard-nosed defense, especially in the Reggie Bush era. Darnell Bean. I think Troy might have played on his team when he was there. Like, so you had Reggie Bush. You had, there was Lightning Thunder. I can't, like Lindell White. Then you had a couple other guys. I think the starting tenure was like Carson Palmer. Then you had Matt Leinart. So he had a very good team. But Pete, when he got to Seattle, he came in building a team with a strong run game and led with a play action. If you run the ball a lot, people will have to start cheating, and that allows to open up play action. But everybody know that there was no secret on his defense. He ran pretty much a shell, a cover 1, cover 3, and every now and then he would blitz and bring the house. So the fact that you knew what he was going to be in, but you had to stop it. A lot of times they pretty much showed, hey, we're in cover 3, shell, or some type of cover 1. But they disguised it, but you knew it was between one of those two. So sometimes they'd throw a robber in there. But with that scheme, he had players like, these guys, I'm not gonna lie, before I even knew who some of these guys were, I didn't know who they were between the likes of Pete Carroll. I knew who Pete Carroll was. So one of the players I'm going to talk about is Bobby Wagner. Also, another on that list is Richard Sherman. Like I said, Richard Sherman was actually a receiver in college. One thing about him being a receiver in college, he helped out his ball skills. But the thing is, nobody really knew who he was unless you really followed Stanford. Another player is Earl Thomas. So the fact that, we had Marshawn Lynch, we had Earl Thomas, and we had one other that stood out to me, which was Wham Bam Cam. So with these players being in that atmosphere, did he make them or did they make him? So let's start with Wham Bam Cam. Like I said, Cam Chancellor, I followed him closely because of the fact that Cam should have been a linebacker. I watched him play at Virginia Tech. He would scramble your eggs if he caught you slipping. But his hips, in my opinion, was trash at Virginia Tech. When I watched him play against Georgia Tech, they ran the option, and he would make the play with the hit, but when it came down to a shifty guy, he struggled with that. So they say he had bad hips. He also played quarterback in high school, so he's an athlete, but I just felt like he was a thumper. But he really didn't have good hips. So a lot of times he got caught slipping. Like, so I remember when they played Virginia Tech years ago, his hips were a little tight and they said he should have been a linebacker. But Cam is listed at 6'3", 230 pounds. And like I said, that was a pretty good size safety. Like I said, he was drafted in the 5th round. The fact that he was drafted in the 5th round shows that nobody had a whole lot of interest in him, or they felt like he would slide. But they didn't draft him in the 1st round. So, like I said, he drafted to the Seattle Seahawks. I would have drafted no earlier than the 5th myself, because I said I watch him closely because I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, and I got to see him up close when we played against Virginia Tech. We gave him work at times, but however, if he catch you slipping, he will bust your head open. So let's look at his career. Like I said, unfortunately, the way he played, he actually paid the ultimate price. He had a couple problems with his neck and his shoulders, but he gave it everything he had. So he finished his career with 607 tackles, 15 total interceptions, 9 forced fumbles, and 3 recoveries, 2 sacks. That's not bad at all because he only played 8 years. The fact that those 8 years he played that tough, and he put the fear in God in people if you can't cross that. Like you can see the highlights actually rolling as an overlay. I wanted to put that on for you guys. But I added in the playoff interceptions as well because they were crucial in his career. There were times that Cam actually changed the game. I remember he jumped over the field goal unit without touching anybody and blocked a kick. Dude was phenomenal. He got better, but what I saw him in college was a above average linebacker. So it goes to say that he had limitations. He didn't make big plays, but the fact that the answer is, did Pete Carroll's scheme make him, or did he make Pete Carroll's scheme? Like I said, but let's keep going with the next guy, because the fact that it's going to get a little deeper with each player. So, like I said, Bobby Wagner was a very good player for them. Bobby played very good. Bobby was one of the top linebackers in the league. Keyword was. But we're going to stay in the secondary. We're going to go to Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas, one of my favorite safeties. Like I said, he was fast. He was physical. And we all know that Earl, if you leave it in the air, he's going to pick it off. And so the fact that Earl was not 6'2", he was an undersized safety, he was in a great scheme. Because he had anything underneath could get taken out by Cam. And also Bobby Wagner played pretty good zone defense as well. So he could play one high safety and play 17 yards deep. Why? Because he was fairly fast for a safety. Like, he was not one of those guys I got to play. He played 17 yards because he was able to. Let me roll back. He played 17 yards off the ball because he can get to the run and play the pass. Most people think he played 17 yards because he can't defend deep. He got a whole lot of interceptions because I think he's listed at like 67 interceptions just off the top of my head. So he can pick the ball off. He can cover some ground. But the fact that he could play that far back and still drop people like Adrian Peterson in the run game was pretty doggone good. Like I said, he was a rare safety, but however, he was very undersized. He was 5'8". Even though he can play, not a lot of people is going to take him that high because of his size. Like I said, he played good at Texas. But at 5'8", 5'9", playing safety, it's not that big. So he played in the perfect scheme that needed him at a top high cover one to eliminate all deep balls. He can cover both sidelines at that depth because he can get over there. He'll pick it up. The scheme allowed him to show what he was excellent, which was coverage, which was rare because a lot of times you didn't really catch him out of position. He got to show all his raw ball skills, like saying the potential to pick off a lot of passes. Coming out of the University of Texas, did I have him as a first-round pick? Yes, I did. But I was like, he's going to have to be in the right scheme because somebody will take advantage of his height and his size. So let's look at his stats. So Earl Thomas has 713 tackles, 30 total interceptions. No, that's not correct. Yeah, he had more than 30. He had 65. But I want to say, yeah, that's definitely wrong. But he had 13 forced fumbles, 6 fumble recoveries, and he had 7 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros. That is a Hall of Fame record already. Like this, he's definitely going to the Hall of Fame. Now, will he go first ballot? He would get my vote, but some people let that personal life stuff get in the way. I feel like he played very well for the time he was there. So the fact he's undersized and has such a great career, my guess is the scheme and the guidance from Pete Carroll really elevated him to be the best he could be. if he played for anybody else, which he did eventually go to the Ravens, he played good that one season. But let's be clear, nobody's taking a first round pick and going to get an undersized safety. Nobody is. I don't care how fast he is. So I would say that that scheme did help him out. But like I said, this is giving more evidence of the right scheme maximizes your ability, which I do like. Next up is one of my favorite my favorite players is Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, in my opinion, was one of the best corners in his tenure. First of all, he came out of Stanford. He was a wide receiver until I want to say his last year they moved him to corner. He ran about 4.59, 4.6. Was not a very pick him up, put him down guy, but he was long, he was rangy, he can cover a lot of ground because of his stride. I'm sure, as you know, Richard Sherman, you know, as you about to see in this highlight, he actually started watching Cam the way he played. He was like, I get picks, I make plays, but I want to start hitting people. Once he started doing that, he elevated his game. Now he's not afraid to hit. He will pick a pass off. And the thing is, there's one time they stopped throwing to his side of the field. I love some Darrelle Revis. Darrelle Revis is very good. But people didn't stop throwing to Darrelle Revis' side. Darrelle Revis still picked them off, but this is why they didn't, you know, throw it to Richard Sherman's side. He's 6'3", 205 pounds as a corner. That's pretty big. Most corners are probably about 5'9" to 6'1", probably about 175 to 190. But the fact he was 205, he was not a pushover. And, you know, it was hard to throw to his side. So he actually played good at his range. He had over about 500 tackles, 4 interceptions. He had great ball skills. However, the 1 year at corner that he played got him drafted as a corner. And someone actually told him if he fell down to the 5th round, they would draft him as a receiver. Pete did not see him as a receiver. Pete took a chance to let him play corner. And if you look at his body work, I think he played extremely well. So he's one of others. Now, one of Richard's weaknesses in his game that I did see, even though he's one of my favorite corners, his hips. By him being 6'3", he's so tall, those smaller receivers could get him to open his hips to go one way and then break inside. He didn't have that majority of his career because of the fact he was so tall. So they put him in schemes and techniques that he will not get beat as much. That's why they will allow him to, in my personal opinion, to allow him to open his hips up already, and he would just shuffle and get out of his stance. When he was in man coverage, I felt like he was great if only 20 yards is behind him. Let's be clear, he only ran a 4.6, so somebody running 4.3, they will catch him slipping. And I think it was T.Y. Hilton caught him 1 year. You know, T.Y., he went to go jam T.Y., and T.Y. jabbed back, took off. The ball was actually overthrown the first time. They went back to the same play a couple drives later. T.Y. cooked him because I want to say he might have been in cover 2. It looked like a cover 2, but I think it was cover 1. I'm sorry, no, it was cover 2 man. But he got beat off the line of scrimmage, and Earl didn't get over in time. Touchdown. Like I said, but I love watching Richard play with a lot of tenacity, play with a lot of range, play with a lot of heart. But it goes to show that a 4'6" corner at 6'3", that was not the traditional size corner that people like. I felt like he was too tall. They probably would have put him in safety, but it wasn't big enough. So, yeah, like I said, he right at 495 tackles, 41 total interceptions, 6 total forced fumbles, 8 total fumble recovers, and 6 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pros. Amazing career. It's one of my favorite corners to watch. But the fact that it goes to when he went to the 49ers, let's be clear, even though he had an injury, he was not the same corner. Even if he wasn't hurt, I don't think he would have been the same in that scheme because I want to say they was running a 3-4. That alignment is different. You got to play a different man technique. He was not the same. Now that you have all the evidence in front of you, I want you to make your own decision. Because me personally, I felt like Pete Carroll's coaching, along with his staff, they put these guys in the best position for their tenure and made them Hall of Fame players. Could Bobby Wagner had a good career somewhere else? Yes, he could have. Could Richard Sherman had a good career somewhere else? I don't think he would have. Earl Thomas, same thing. Undersized safety that was fast, He would have played in the league for a while, but I don't think he would have been the Earl Thomas he was. Cam Chancellor, let's be clear, he would have been an outside linebacker in anybody else's scheme. If these players thrived in the house of Pete Carroll, that is, in my opinion, of how they became who they were. Now, did they put in the time and the work? Yes, but that scheme and his coaching did well. But he allowed them, personality-wise, to let them be who they are. They were very outspoken. He allowed that to be yourself that makes you comfortable. But these guys also took the opportunity to go somewhere else to prove that they could play. Even though they was past their prime, you could still play. Earl Thomas played one good year with the Ravens. Hasn't been back since. Personal issues, whatever, I don't know. But he's no longer in the league. Richard Sherman played as long as he could. But once that Achilles, he's not the same player. And two, I felt like he was right at the end of his tenure of being the top corner. And like I said, Marshawn Lynch played well at anybody's scheme, but I think he played his best years at the Seattle Seahawks. They got the best and the most they could out of him. Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson, in my opinion, they thrived off of the house of Pete, the house that Pete built. Bobby Wagner had great years, but let's be clear, without Pete, ask everybody where Bobby Wagner is now. Don't forget, Bobby Wagner is still in the league. He played for the Rams last year. Nobody even remembered he's in the league. Russell Wilson, don't even get me started on that guy. I'm a big Russell Wilson fan. I just knew he was going to light up in Bronco country. Let's ride. Yeah, he didn't do anything. And it was like, oh, wait, he don't have any weapons. Pound for pound, in my opinion, this would be another episode, Russell Wilson, on paper, had better receivers at the Broncos than he did during his tenure at Seattle. If you look at how they spent money and drafted these guys, and these guys 40s, and these guys route running ability, he couldn't do anything with them. He was gun shy, and he got exposed. Is Russell Wilson a bad quarterback? No. But I felt like in the house that Pete built, he was able to thrive. Because he's only 5'10", 235. He's undersized. But a lot of times he worked on his accuracy to be able to throw on the outside of the field because, I'm going to be very clear and blunt, he can't see the middle of the field. He can't. He's 5'10". All those linemen are 6'3", 6'4". That's why he stays in the shotgun. But I got all the evidence in front of you. Please be sure to leave in the comments. What do you think about this? Am I, how the young people say, capping? Did he not make the career? But in the meantime, make sure you follow us on XandO Sports on our Instagram. Follow me on YouTube, XandOSportsTalk. See, can we get those followers up? Because I will be having more content since it's the off season. And also on my Twitter page, XOSportsTalk. And like I said, I love that when I did this episode, it took me a while to put it together because I wanted to put all the evidence in front of you so you can make your own conclusion. But put in the comments what you think should happen. I think all those guys would go to the Hall of Fame and Ring of Honor. But I feel like that Pete increased their opportunities to be the best they were in their career. But in due time, we will see. But as for time, this is mine. I'm your host, Ricky G. Stanley, and I am out of here.
Gonna get a lot of dough. Anything is possible. Turn me up in the headphone.
Soundstripe.
Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Yeah. Oh man, I got a lot of gold. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Hey. Oh man, I got a lot